Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to today's webinar by Future Ready Schools, sponsored by AWS, on forging unbreakable cybersecurity partnerships. My name is Dr. Adam Fayal. I am the Director of Professional Learning and Leadership for All for Ed, and I am excited to be the moderator for today's conversation that we're going to have. In today's era where technology is everywhere, technology is pretty much where textbooks and pens and pencils used to be at one point. It's literally everywhere. The responsibility of protecting our students' data has never been more critical. Today, we stand united at the forefront of the most significant technology challenges that we've ever seen in education. We talk about everything from AI to one-to-one to mobile learning. All these things are happening today. Cell phones in the classroom, we're not even going to go there today, but I know that is the top of a lot of people's brains. But today in this webinar, what we're going to do is really talk about how you can forge bonds, not only with your partners that you solicit their resources from, but also at the state and federal level. What resources are out there to really help you do the best job to secure your data in your school district? So our panelists that we have, they are seasoned veterans in the game, in cybersecurity, and in education. And they're going to share with you some actionable insights and proven strategies to allow you to really take everything that you've gotten from today's webinar and use immediately in your educational setting. We'll have a chance for any questions. So if any questions or comments come up, feel free to add those in the chat and we'll throw those up there for our panelists to kind of dive into as we go into our webinar today. So with that being said, you didn't come here to see me. I know I look good on camera and all that, but you didn't come here to see me. We have some amazing panelists that I definitely want to bring to the stage so they can share their insight with you. So our panelists are coming first to the stage. Let's see. I gotta keep it home because I am in Georgia right now. So let me bring to the stage right now, Nathan.
Welcome.
All right, then we have, let's see, ladies, Terry Green. Come on up.
Howdy, everybody.
See, I was not expecting a howdy. That was not what I was expecting out of you, but thank you for that howdy there. And coming all the way from Louisiana. Sorry about that game this past weekend.
I'm a women's basketball fan. I'm still crushed from Monday, so I'm gonna recover.
Bonnie, how's it going?
I'm Bonnie. Glad to be here.
All right, so real quick, everybody, if you could just introduce yourself and let our viewers know what it is that you do and why you are the expert in what you are the expert in. Nathan, go ahead and start us off.
Thanks, Adam. My name is Nathan Miller. I'm the Chief Technology and Information Security Officer with the Georgia Department of Education. I like to say that I have the longest title at the agency. So I have an extra long business card. It's pretty cool. I'm in my 17th year of my career. Started off as a network engineer at a small rural school district. Then spent 7 years as a CIO. And the last 2 years I've been at the State Department of Education. Really spend a lot of time, not just internal to the agency, but supporting our school districts. And so I was telling Adam before the call, that's probably one of the most rewarding parts of my job is just being able to support the people that were and are my peers and that are doing the job that I did for so long and came to love. So glad to be here with you today.
Thanks. All right, Terry.
Hi, I'm Terry Green. I've been in my 17th year as well. I guess me and Nathan is clearly close to the same age. So, so my 17th year as well, I've been everything from subject matter expert. I actually started out in cybersecurity. I don't know how we didn't call it cybersecurity back then, but everything was about protect. So a long time ago, I used to be a black hat hacker. Then I became ethical hacker. Then I became a subject matter expert. And then I ended up helping in schools, and I did that for 7 years as a CIO, and then started my own company. I have a federal cybersecurity contracting firm, and that's what we do. We help strengthen postures all over the world.
All right, thank you. And Bonnie.
Terry's a tough act to follow. I don't want to talk after Terry anymore. My name is Bonnie. Obviously, I'm down in Baton Rouge. I started teaching social studies. I have a different path. I just taught social studies up until my school went one-to-one. It was years ago now. Makes me feel old. When we went one-to-one, they moved me into a technology role and an instructional coach. From there, I worked at the district level, supporting lots of schools. We had about 60 schools in that school system. And now I work at the state level. I work closely with our Office of Technology Services on the cyber side, and then I sit on our academic content team. So I work very closely with teachers. So I get to touch all the aspects of it, which I very much like. Like I said, this wasn't my original path. So this is more cybersecurity is more like of a passion project that I've really brought to my role. Because like Adam talked about, I really think it's an everybody issue now and not just, for IT. So.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one of the things that's really important with today's webinar. We want to make sure that everyone understands that this is not just about the people, that's sitting in a room in a basement somewhere. This is not just the wires and pliers kind of people. This is really an everybody, all hands on deck to ensure cybersecurity. I liken it to like your home. Everybody walks in and out of your doors and things of that nature. And I always, I have 3 kids. I got to tell them, hey kids, close the door, close the garage. We can't leave the house open. Cause all my heat and air going out the building. I done turned to my dad on that one. But also you want to make sure you're keeping your home safe. So when we start talking about cybersecurity, it is a job for everybody. And all of you that are out there watching, feel free in the chat or whatever you're watching us on, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and hop in the chat and let us know where you are viewing from. We definitely want to know who's watching us today on this webinar. And we once again want to thank our great friends at AWS for making this possible, because they're doing some amazing work, and I have some really great resources to share at the end of today's webinar about the AWS K-12 Cyber Grant Program. So I want to make sure you stay tuned for that. It's a grant program for districts across the country, so I'll make sure I share that information with you. But with that being said, I want to go ahead and hop right into it with our panelists today. And let's hit the crux of this. As we are looking at cybersecurity, everybody wants to have the best system out there as possible. But can you guys kind of share any federal or state resources that you know of that are available for school systems to improve cybersecurity? Because we know we had funding for devices. A lot of folks use their ESSER funds and things of that nature to get devices for students. But what can we do from the federal state level as far as resources to improve our cybersecurity posture?
Well, personally, since I work with the federal side, I know it's 4 that I use very often. So you have FSA, which is known as the Federal Student Aid Cybersecurity Risk Assessment Tool. It's called CRIAR. And a lot of higher education institutions use this to be able to kind of assess their cybersecurity risk and compliance. But it's something that you can actually get free through the federal government. Then you have the FTC. They do the Federal Trade Commission, got a cybersecurity resource that you can use for safeguarding sensitivity of data. Like you said, if they partner with AWS using that grant, maybe it can show them what data classification really is and how they can be able to kind of do this with more efficiencies. But it helps tailor it based on your institution, because nobody infrastructure is the same. And then you have the U.S. Department of Education cybersecurity resource. They offer guidance on protecting student data and privacy in K through 12 segments. And I use this a lot of times when I'm speaking through K through 12, because I realize some of them don't even know what I'm talking about, right? So how do we help protect them when they don't even know what we're talking about? We have to be able to stop. We use a lot of acronyms, and we have to start speaking to them differently. Then, of course, NIST. NIST is always on the ground, and they offer different frameworks that's applicable now in schools. You got COSIN doing the same thing. As I'm not biased, but I am one. I do sit on their cybersecurity advisory board. So they're doing a lot of amazing things as well.
And I'll jump in real quick. We do quite a few things from the state level, but I'll start off with the federal level. We integrate very closely with CISA. Stanton Gatewood is our Region 4 director here in Atlanta. CISA offers a lot of resources, both from CISA Direct and through MSISAC. So they have their penetration test that you can sign up for free. That window to get onboarded with them has closed a lot recently. We're hearing good reports from our districts that it's only taken a few weeks to get that stood up. MSISAC has the MDBR service, malicious domain blocking and reporting, which is a free DNS-based filtering service run by Akamai. And so we've seen a lot of districts see their inbound malicious traffic cut significantly using that service. And it's free. Took about 5 minutes to set up at my previous district. Very easy to go through. We also have some services that we offer from the state in Georgia. We provide all of our districts with know before license, a multi-year know before license, the diamond package, meaning that it's the managed fish campaigns and the cybersecurity awareness training. So they can use that, use those two independently or in conjunction with each other. We also provide them with BitSight, which is an external vulnerability assessment tool. And we're also providing them with OneEdTech Trusted Apps, which is an application vetting service that they can use within the school to provide teachers and district administrators with a way to really wrangle all these applications that tend to get adopted with or without some level of oversight at the district level. And the last thing I'll touch on is, oh Lord, it escapes me. We'll pass it on to Bonnie until I can think of what that last one is. I should have took notes.
One thing we're working on that I'm super pumped about is our Office of Homeland Security. Our governor's Office of Homeland Security has been fantastic in like acknowledging like one vulnerability is all it takes, right? So they have created like almost a dome, a bubble that have and they're using their ESSER funds and whatever federal funds they can right now to support all these different, whether it's municipalities and schools, and connecting and like creating a system to that's more preventative rather than just reactive. So GoSIP is really involved in a lot of things we do. They're starting to come to our EdTech monthly calls because and I know we're going to get to this later, but like in the case of an event, that's who people are going to call. So we want to make sure like they're very connected, but yeah, they've been really working on providing resources and support for our school system. And it's really neat. And like they were talking about earlier, we share stuff about CISA all the time. And then we have our local Q, it's called Luck Q. They're getting together and helping with some planning cohorts and things like that.
Well, Bonnie, since you kind of mentioned that, you kind of teed up the next thing I want to talk about. So you're up on this one first. Yeah. Can you kind of really talk about some ways that government resources have made an impact on cybersecurity measures in Louisiana?
Absolutely. A Morehouse school system. As I talked to the guy just a few weeks ago, they had an attack. It's a really small school system. And that's something I do always try to make sure, because some of those school systems got like one person, right? Like one or two people manning the whole system, running one-to-one and cybersecurity. It's a lot. So they had an attack the year before last, and GoSEP, our office, Louisiana Office of Technology Services that I work with, showed up, helped him, got him a new firewall. He was like, at the time, he was like, I wouldn't have been able to afford that firewall. He said, not only did that prove that I needed it later. So when he went to the school board looking for funding, he was like, look, they bought me this. When it's time to upgrade, like this is what we need to do. So that response where we came in, didn't just smash up their, servers with hammers, helped them, gave them some hardware they needed. And he said it was a game changer. Like it changed their whole system and really caught him up to speed. He said, he was like, I know governments can't like provide everybody. He was like, but for small school systems, he was like, I got caught up, right? He was like, I was behind. And the state came in and really helped me catch up. So got lots of great stories like that, but that one's my favorite.
All right, Nathan, you want to add to that?
I will. And this, going back to the previous question, our partnership with COSIN is one of the other things I wanted to highlight. So we have been in the process of doing, in Georgia, we have REISs, which are Regional Education Service Agencies. It's just a geographically located service agency for school districts. And so We've been partnering with COSN and our REISs to provide cybersecurity training for our districts. It includes a self-assessment, it includes incident response planning, and it includes tabletop exercises. And we're inviting the whole gambit. So my boss, Keith Osborne, he refers them to the 4 C's: the CIO, the CAO, your Chief Academic Officer, the CEO, the Superintendent, and the CFO, your Chief Financial Officer. So we've invited all 4 of those folks to each of those trainings. Obviously, we have more turnout from our technical staff, but we've had pretty good success in getting some of those other stakeholder groups to attend. But we have had multiple districts who have encountered incidents of various kinds that have just really been able to speak to the benefit of going through that training and taking their other district staff through those tabletop exercises. The other thing that we're doing in partnership with COSN is we're calling it our Emerging Technology Leaders Academy, but it's basically a mentorship program for new CIOs. So we're really excited about that. Got a lot of positive feedback so far. Adam's participant in that. They have a national cohort, and we have our Georgia cohort. But one of the things that we're working on there is creating a new CIO handbook, because I'm sure, like the rest of everybody on this call, our states are seeing huge turnover in our technology leadership across the state.
Yep.
And so having that means of supporting them has been very, very valuable for us.
Yeah, that's so important because there has been a changing of the guard in a lot of cases across the country. And Terry, you can speak to that because you were one of the people who decided to change and go in the private sector.
So it was different for me. I went from private to go to schools. And I always say it's not luck, chance, or happen. Say it's divine intervention. I feel like it was a reason I did it. And I was kind of shocked at what I learned in schools. We have a deficit when we start to talk about resources, but then I found ourselves in schools in a different issue. They had some developmental issues from a lot of people they was in the positions and really didn't understand the technology as abreast as you would in corporate America. But then we didn't have the budgets to be able to afford those people. So being able to develop that skill set was something totally different. But then I also found sometimes it was the IT manager that used to be a principal. So now we asking them to be able to kind of now secure my network when they're just now learning how to get into the wireless. So I'm like, I thought the expectations were like unrealistic. So I used it as I could as I was forging my district to become the second district to achieve ISO compliance as a K through 12. And I had got those policies approved prior to my departure, but they still don't know what to do with them, and to me, that's why I felt like my company, I think when you work for education, it has to be a passion project. You really have to care about education, not just the outcome has to be kid centric. And as I'm sure Bunny can contest, teachers are the hardest to teach at times. So being able to have them understand the importance of what that cybersecurity is, and then have the technology team understand the access controls that they need to implement to make it a little bit more effective and still be customer centric was a whole nother variant. So I decided, can't join them, create it yourself, and that's why I shifted again.
Cool. I want to circle back to something that you mentioned earlier, Nathan. The Noble 4 tool. Could you briefly kind of explain what that is for the viewers out there who don't know what that is?
Sure. So there are really 2 key pieces to Noble 4. One is managed phish campaigns, meaning that I, as a network administrator, can send out phishing emails, and they use real phishing emails that are captured in the wild, and they are defanged. So none of the links in them will take you to a malicious website. But you can run those campaigns, I wouldn't say against your staff, but with your staff. And so this will give you an idea of what your they call it their phish prone percentage. So which of your staff members are more likely to click on something. And you can tailor it to your specific vertical. So if you're higher ed, you can tailor it by department. So if you want to target your HR department with HR type emails, but it allows you to get a feel for who's vulnerable. And you can then partner that with their cybersecurity awareness training. So based on the types of phishing emails they tend to click on, you can assign remedial training to them that is relevant to the topic. So if they tend to click on a lot of HR related emails, or maybe it's advertising for businesses, maybe it's a lot of people tend to click on Chick-fil-A or free pizzas. If you're in Georgia, you'll get the Chick-fil-A reference. No teacher is more angry than one who thinks she's getting a Chick-fil-A biscuit and gets signed up for Know Before training. So, but yeah, it's those two primary pieces. There's the cybersecurity awareness training, and they have a lot of content in there for students as well. It's important that we don't just think about cybersecurity as a business problem. This is also something where we need to include this in our digital citizenship conversation. So we're not just training our teachers, we're training our students to go out into the world and take these good practices with them.
So with that being said, and I'm gonna, if I can throw this to Bonnie. So how can we're talking about this as a team approach. Everybody has to support this. So what is the role of the classroom teacher in this cybersecurity? As we just heard, with Know Before, kind of doing it with our staff, but I'm sure Know Before doesn't necessarily work towards student phishing. So what are some things that you're doing in Louisiana that's successful with our students?
Man, this is my thing. So I started doing trainings myself, and I give out to my slides, everybody, and I encourage people to use it with their staff. But explaining to teachers on their terms, right? Meeting them where they are, just like we would teach kids. I do feel like teachers feel like that's an IT problem, right? That doesn't involve me. They're mad every time they have to change their password. I know, because I'm not a cybersecurity expert in my house. I click way too many buttons, but I'm the problem. But starting off my training with that, right? Saying I'm not perfect. We all are struggling, but also explaining your social security number is on that outdated payroll server, and making that personal connection where it's not oh, that'll never happen to me, and being no, guys, this is you're protecting yourself and your school system. So when you click that link, like I said, you want to be mindful, not because you're helping the school system, but on a personal level, you're taking care of yourself. And we've seen a lot of people, like I said, take those slides and just have that conversation. And also repeatedly, we can't just do it once in the beginning of the school year and never explain it again. And in my perfect world, I would almost hope that teachers it's not that side off digital citizenship conversation, right? When you're logging in to your ELA platform, you're saying hey, guys, notice these two, you're clicking on this, make sure you don't do this. And that's it's a continual conversation. I really like your comparison, physical security. And that's we teach kids to lock the doors,
Mm-hmm.
and we used to have the whole assemblies where you talked about stranger danger. This is our new assembly. This is the new thing. And we wouldn't think twice about, telling teachers to lock their doors, and just, like I said, really bringing it home to them and meeting them where they are. And I don't think the gotcha is working. Like Louise said, I'm sorry. I could talk about this all day. I got to stop. But the gotcha isn't working, right? It's just not working. So we gotta try something different.
And that's one of those things with Know Before and other types of things where you kind of test your staff. I've been in situations where some administrators didn't want to do it. They thought it would interrupt teaching and learning if we did that, some kind of a test or event in our district. And for me, I likened it to fire drills or tornado drills. I'm those things we know interrupt teaching and learning, but we do it for safety. And not to necessarily make it the same, but when you do an active shooter drill or a fire drill or a bomb threat, all these things are done in the means of safety. We want to keep our students and staff safe. So when you're doing these cyber events in your district, ultimately you're trying to keep your students, staff, everybody safe in that process. So I think we really need to take that kind of approach and look at it on the same level as one of those other types of drills to ensure that we're doing the right work and keeping everything safe. Terry, go ahead, hop in.
Adam, we took a different approach, maybe because I was trying to pursue the ISO compliance, and gratefully the leadership team was behind me. We actually incorporated it in the curriculum. So to be able to, so kids can understand cybersecurity. And then at one point we was actually talking about cybersecurity chess. We can teach them strategy by applying cybersecurity elements to it, trying to meet the kids where they are. And then this thing called cyber ninja for kids that were in development of applications where they're still learning the cybersecurity principles. That way, you're not forcing it on them. You're still boosting their learning aspect, and at the same time teaching them.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Since you hopped up there, I want to throw the next question over to you right now. As we start looking at districts, and of course, there are districts of all types. Some have all the resources and all the manpower. They have a whole cybersecurity team. But as Bonnie mentioned earlier, you have that one district where someone may be the tech director, the bus driver, and the custodian in the school district. And they're trying to do all these things. So districts oftentimes have to find a partner that can help manage this work. So as someone who does partner with districts, what would you recommend are some qualities that districts look for when they are partnering with a company to kind of help them with this work?
So first, I employ them to find somebody in which they trust, because people buy from people who they trust, not people they know. Make sure you take a holistic approach to anything what you do, like you said, because no district is the same. And then me as a person, I will look at what is the goal, the business goal of the actual school district. A lot of times, look at their policies, understand the district, make sure anything in what you're doing is actually applicable to something that they have on their plan and in their goal, and they're more that will show that you're more in tune to addressing them. And the way you collaborate, make sure you both understand what your goal is. Hey, are you going to collaborate with me so you can identify my vulnerabilities, address my threats, implement my long-term solutions? Now we have cybersecurity insurance that come in place that requires districts to have even more understanding and thorough knowledge. So making sure you understand their goal, their compliance segments, whatever that is, because it's based period on state. The state of Texas, every school in the state of Texas has to have a cybersecurity professional based on the law based mandated by the state. So you have to be able to understand where you are and where they are to be able to show them where they're going, or you guys can be able to hold each other hand and lead each other there. But it has to be forward communication. And and I always say, invest a lot of time with these schools. School districts do not move quickly. And that's the one thing, when you think about it, somebody said in the text, I think his name was Louise, they do take a reactive stance. They wait until things to actually happen versus taking a proactive lens. And there's a lot of times because the leadership team doesn't understand what the benefits are. So that would be on the actual leader in technology to be able to go in and be able to show them what it is, show them the risk that's associated to them not protecting the students, show them that the students are the risk, because the kids will find out when they're 18 if their identity was stolen, and I just don't want it done on my watch.
Nathan, could you hop in there and tell me, from a state's perspective, as districts are looking at hiring third party vendors to come in and support it? Is there any? I know in Georgia it's to the local school to determine, but is there any guidance or support or direction that the state would try to encourage districts to look into?
There's not any formal guidance that we provide, but I will say that the key word in that question, the original question that you posed, is the word partnership. If you have someone that's just coming in and selling you a widget or selling you a solution, then that's not the person you need to be talking to. If you've got someone who's going to sit down at the table with you and help you plan from the very beginning, not just how you're going to implement a tool, but how it fits into the broader ecosystem of your organization, that's the person you want to do business with. You don't want it to just be a transaction. You want it to be a partnership.
Oh, excellent thought there. Bonnie, do you want to add on to that? I saw you added something in the chat there.
Oh yeah. We were. I know Louise, so but yeah, just I agree, and I like what Terry was saying, and we were talking about. It's so much harder to fix once the bad guys get in. I'm sure you guys saw what happened in Minnesota. It was horrific, and like Terry was saying, you don't want that to happen on your watch, because there's that was just the worst thing I've seen in a while. So if you haven't seen, like, Minnesota had a cyber attack and they dumped all the kids' personal files online, like their counseling files, and it's terrible to hear about. So yeah, those partnerships, back to that, are so important, because you don't want that to happen. You want to have as much support as you can. Said your Morehouse or Tinsall, which is some of our tiniest parishes, that they're still vulnerable. Kids still need support.
So you brought up a point there with the vulnerability, and of course we all do our best to ensure that things are safe. We put up as many walls as possible. We guard as much, but sometimes, unfortunately, those bad actors get on stage, if you will. So can y'all kind of talk about how having a multi-stakeholder approach can help crisis management, for example, during a data breach? Because when these things happen, if I'm the only person, I may not know what to do, or the person could be on vacation, or in the case, they could also be out driving buses because that's their other job. So, when you have this happen, Terry, what does that look like in your mind for this multi-stakeholder approach to helping this crisis?
Man, it's really vital to have a robust cybersecurity posture in any school. You think about it, you're able to take a comprehensive, holistic approach when you use a multi-stakeholder approach. It allows you to have more thorough collaboration, so it can be more effective. You can be able to have diverse perspectives, as you stated. I might only be one entity, one pane glass looking in, and I don't know what I'm looking at. So being able to have multiple lenses is very important, and it actually sets you up for long-term solutions when we start to talk about effective sustainability within cybersecurity postures.
Nathan?
I'll use this as an opportunity to talk about the importance of planning. One of the things that we really push is kind of that Rolodex of resources that we want people to put into their incident response plan, so that when something does happen, you're not just grasping blindly for who do I need to call for XYZ. If I know that I've got GEMA, which is our Georgia Emergency Management Agency, the Georgia Technology Authority, I know that I've got CISA, I know that we have resources with the Georgia Cyber Center. If it's a cyber crime, we've got the GBI that can step in and assist. So just knowing who to reach out to when, but also that's part of my role as a CISO at the Department of Education, is to be that first point of contact. A lot of people, when something bad happens, they get that immediate analysis paralysis where they're trying to, take in all this telemetry that's flying at them really fast and really just don't know what to do with it. And so maybe it's just as simple as they need somebody to tell them, hey, you need to stop what you're doing and reach out to your cyber insurance provider. They're going to run point on this thing, and you won't have to be in that role where you're having to both make decisions and try to mitigate the effects of the event. So that planning piece, I can't stress how important that is, and getting all of those contacts documented up front so that you know who to go to for what.
Okay, and Bonnie, if you can, I'm going to throw you out here on the spot, because I know you've had to deal with a few incidents in your state recently that have occurred. So how can you talk about that multi-stakeholder approach and those schools getting the help that they needed?
We have some really good examples in our state of some school systems that are really doing some innovative things and really sharing that information and being leaders. Like West Baton Rouge, right now Louisiana is working with Future Ready Schools, and they have a planning cohort. West Baton Rouge, they paired up with their parish government. In Louisiana, parishes, not counties. But they paired up with their parish government as well. So if there is an incident, it is not just the school, like everybody, the parish council, everybody's kind of ready to help. One thing that West Baton Rouge says a lot to Tim Zitica is you have to make sure that your plan is printed. Like, don't have it saved on the cloud, because they had an incident and they had all the chain of commands and all the stuff, and it was on, they couldn't download it because their servers were unplugged. So things like that. We've got some really great leaders that are sharing their experiences and being very vulnerable, and realizing it's not their fault, right? You want to share with each other. You want to talk about what your experiences are like, and it's not your fault that the bad guy broke in. But it's a constant thing, and that's like I said, I interviewed some school system leaders recently, and every one of them said they lose sleep at night over cybersecurity. Every one of them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's the one event that most folks in tech will tell you they lose sleep over. It's not a one-to-one deployment. It's not which digital textbook to purchase. It's is that those cybersecurity events.
Wow.
At one point I used to tell people
it was really funny because they overall said that their biggest problem is their user, like without a doubt, like not even angry, just like it's our teachers.
They got to reshape that narrative. We messed up a long time ago. We told the people they were the weakest link. They're the greatest vector. So we got to be able to turn it into a positive to make them get more in tune with it.
I love that.
Oh yeah, they got to close the doors and batten the hatches when possible to do that. So let me actually ask y'all this. With that being said, with the utilizing our staff and helping them understand the importance of this, because there's always that tightrope that we walk in school districts where we want to give access, but we want to keep things secure as possible. So, what advice do you have to folks as they are balancing on this tightrope of access to all these amazing resources that are online and also securing our most valuable information in our system? So what advice could you kind of give people in managing that, Terry?
Well, me personally, if you are, majority of you guys are Windows shops, I say you role-based access controls will be able to kind of say, hey, based on this person position, this is what they have access to. So that can be able to eliminate if you work with your teachers, work with the instructional team to be able to figure out what resources are needed. Find a way, whether you're using Know Before as a security training module, or I know a lot of schools were using, I can't think of it, a platform, but you're able to kind of, now it's going to drive me up a wall, but I haven't been in schools in a minute. It's going to drive me crazy though. But at one point we were using a software where you can be able to kind of manage policies, lock down certain things for kids, make sure they don't go through certain sites, give them access to teacher sites, work with these teachers. But the truth of the matter is you have to have great communication with the instructional technology team. A lot of times they work in silos. So being able to make sure that there is some synergies there is very important. You guys are on the same team. And then when you're talking to teachers, they don't care about your network. And let's be honest, they don't care about your network. When you're talking to them, make it applicable to them. I remember one time I was talking in front of the teachers and I was like, hey, who used multi-factor authentication? Nobody raised their hand. I said, well, who got a debit card? Who got a pen? Welcome to multi-factor authentication. Make it applicable to life. They care about their money. You teach them how to protect their money, and in return, they'll protect their network.
Yeah. Nathan?
Yeah, I was just thinking about my days in the district and having some of those exact same challenges. And I'll say, like, when we went to roll out certain initiatives, you think like multi-factor authentication, that's there's this really big perceived blocker to a lot of these things that really doesn't exist. Like, once you get that in front of a core group of people, start with your administrators and go top down. But once you get those people on board, and they realize that it's really not this big flying spaghetti monster that they made it out to be in their mind, then most of the time you'll see that it's a lot easier to implement those changes. One of the other biggest things that we did was taking away local administrator rights on the machines. Kind of same thing you said, Terry, with RBAC.
Can you say that one more time? Say it one more time for the people in the back.
You have not taken away local administrator rights on your PCs. You're in for a bad time. But it's things like that are the really low hanging fruit. They're easy to implement from a technical standpoint. You may get some backlash from your users, but then too, try to put in. You want to make sure that you are also mindful of the fact that they need to do their job. So if you're going to implement something like taking away the local admin passwords, you need to have a way that you can get them the resources that they need. So you need to have some mechanisms in place so that if they do have a legitimate piece of software they need installed, you've got a path for them to get it.
Yeah.
So make sure that as you roll those things out that you have taken into consideration. Ross Limpke with PTAC, a lot of you guys probably know him, but it's the simplest graphic I've ever seen. It's just a little slider bar. On one end is security, on one end is access. and you've got to figure out where on that slider works best for your organization. So.
And I
I
think the
like
day and age have kind of changed a lot from installing software to everything being so web based now, that realistically, what software does the end user need to install that's not already pushed out by the district in most cases? Because most things you're accessing via a web browser. In a lot of cases, before when you had the whole install package of everything you had to push out, even printers, most of the time now you have to have a web client where teachers are able to access and put, if you're doing group web-based printing, because I'm one of those anti-desktop printers people.
Well, Adam, you still have to be mindful. Sometimes it can be the URL that's blocked based on how well you have actually locked down your firewall, or the way you actually segment your network. All that is important too. But to pick you off what Nathan says, if you say, I'm going to start with these controls, I'm going to lock this down from an access control perspective. Make sure you have a way for teachers, because the first thing I'll say is, now I can't do my job. Show them a way where they can submit a link, have a defined SLA as an IT team, when you're going to vet the application to respond and release it. Or if not, tell them why, and don't just tell them no. Come with an alternate solution. So
Right.
I think technology teams, we say no real quick. No, absolutely not. Well, what can I do? I mean, they still have a job to do. So it's our job to be able to come with other tool sets that are safe. And at the same time, we do have to vet these applications, because a lot of these applications, Microsoft, I tell you, they're not as vetted as Apple. Apple use hardest cybersecurity constraints. You don't know where the data is going when they actually signing these kids up on all these URLs. So making sure you vet that to be able to teach them at the same time is important.
Yeah. I just want to echo what Terry was saying about communicate. She said communicate with your instructional technology team, and communicate with those teachers. As a person who was the instructional technology person and got yelled at a lot of stuff that IT did, right? Like, I was the person that showed up and said, no, you can't access that. You could yell at me if it makes you feel better, but it would have been a lot better if I had the information on why, and even better if the teachers had that information. So super, super good point.
And that's one of the reasons we've seen such exponential growth in our usage with the Trusted Apps platform across the state. The key thing that really has helped districts sell it is the fact that it gives teachers a way to request that an application be added to that district approved list. So one of the reasons that, I don't know when it got started, we started calling that wildcatting in Georgia for some reason. Like, when a teacher just finds an app, they're like, ooh, I love it. I saw it at a conference last week. I'm going to put all my student data in it. The reason they do that is because there's not a formal process in place. If they felt empowered to apply for this application to be added to the district list, and it didn't just go down a black hole, it was actually addressed, right, and they got a meaningful decision from the district on why it was or wasn't added to the list, then you'll start seeing adoption by teachers of this mindset that I need to be more mindful of what terms of service are. I need to be looking to see, is this application, does the privacy policy specify that I can't use this with students 13 or younger? The things that they may not necessarily have time to read that 15-page document, they can go into Trusted Apps and see quickly, okay, this is or isn't something I need to be putting my student data into.
Yeah, I definitely. I think the Trusted App is a really great idea. And for all those instructional folks that are listening and out there, it makes your job so much easier when you know what applications you can support within your school system. It's not the wild, wild west where there's 15 different presentation apps that teachers are using. If you have a set core of apps in your school system that you're utilizing, it makes life a whole lot easier, not only for the teachers, but the students and parents. Because we all are talking about this partnership. If the students know which applications they're using, the parents know what applications they're using. If a parent, and this is always one of the things that, and when I was in the role, I used to challenge my curriculum department. We'd have these conversations around student access and data and programs. I said, I want to be able to give a parent every place that I've put their kids' data online. If a parent comes in right now and says, where is my kid online? I could Now, it's not going to be immediate, but I could, in theory, pull a list of every place that we have placed their child's information online. Hey, it's in this Scholastics thing, it's in this McGraw-Hill application, it's in this what Nearpod, whatever it is. I can pull the same list of applications and say, here you go. I know for a fact this is the only places your child's data resides. Now, once everybody starts doing their own thing, can't really secure that. It becomes literally the wild, wild west in districts. And, we want to make sure that we're supporting our teachers, but we also want to have a safe and secure environment. So as you all mentioned, it is a fine line between access and security, but we all are walking that line. So here's something that I want to throw out to everybody here as well. We've talked about the partnerships and whether it is, teacher technology, whether it's a third party vendor, whether it's the state or federal. How can a district really measure the effectiveness of these partnerships? So you have a partnership. How can I measure it's effective? Of course, we haven't had an incident, so I can say, yeah, it's effective because I haven't had an incident. But realistically, how would you direct schools to kind of measure the effectiveness of their partnerships?
You want me to go?
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay.
Sure thing.
Okay. So to me, it actually ties into the same thing that is related to sustainability within partnerships, to be honest. Make sure you have a clearly defined goal of objectives of the partnership. We can take AWS or Azure. It's a shared responsibility model, right? Understand what it is that they actually protect and understand what you have to do as a customer, what you have to do on your end. Just because I'm holding you in my infrastructure, I'm only protecting my infrastructure. It's up to you to do your policies and your access controls. Like every party has a job, but understanding what that clearly is, that's something that we always need to go back to. Make sure that we identify the mission and the value within both. Open up a line of communication and collaboration, set expectations and responsibilities with the partner. You cannot just let a partner come in your network like a lot of us do, and then we don't even check on them. Okay. So it has to be created a win-win scenario for both parties in my perspective. And then they need to regularly evaluate the partnership. Evaluate the partnership of the progress of the partnership. They need to be able to have some metrics. Schools are really big on data. What's the metrics? How effective are when we put tickets in? How quick are you responding? How long is it taking for you to respond? Are you doing one and dones? Is this a continuous issue that continue to come up? Because you may not be the best partner to solve it, clearly, if you can't. But if we don't even monitor that and we just let our money go to the wayside, that happens a lot. But you can adjust strategies as needed to if it's a partnership you truly believe in. And then you have to foster trust, which is very hard to do, maintain transparency, which is very hard to do. But that's how you build everlasting long partnerships and all that great stuff. But it's the same checklist you need to do every day. Hopefully you got a vendor checklist when you start getting these vendors in your infrastructure. You see what open ports they got, understand their security posture, and figure out what risk they can actually bring to you. Because a lot of times it's partners that get hacked, not you. And they become your vector. So if you don't assess them, you're actually leaving yourself wide open.
Yeah, that is so true, because in some cases people think, oh, I have a partner, I've just turned it over to this organization. That does not mean that you are all free and clear, because I joke with somebody, Equifax got hacked. So the people who secure all of our credit information got compromised. So if they can be targeted, a school district of any size can be compromised as well. Bonnie, do you want to add to that? Being able to measure effectiveness of relationships or partnerships?
Yeah, I think, like she said, it's a big trust. You have to just really think about how you're feeling. Are you doing more work? Is it more work to keep them supporting you than you would be if you just did it yourself? There are a lot of, you work with partners and you're always having to say oh, I need this, I need this, I need this. And sometimes you need to step back and be like, is this relationship benefiting, actually benefiting me? And I'm being a good steward of tax dollars, right? And that's a big thing for me, because we're using our tax dollars to fund things. But in Louisiana, we have the strictest privacy laws of any other state. They take it really serious. And she was talking about vetting. I've been trying to go in and make state data sharing agreements and support tools that are like that have their SOC 2, like they have everything in order. But it's a long process, and teachers are way ahead of me on the newest thing on a lot of times. So finding partnerships that, like I said, that everything here they were talking about transparency, support, and are they, are you doing more effort to keep them in check than it would be if you did it by yourself?
I think Nathan has something to say about how strict the cybersecurity thing. I think he's going to say Georgia may have the most strict, but we'll see.
I don't know about the most strict, but we have some. I do think we're in a pretty good place. I was just going to point out K126.org, if you're not familiar with that, great organization. Doug Levin heads them up. They do a lot of really good work, and they have a lot of studies they've done. Um, One of the things that they point out is that most cyber incidents actually, or most data breaches actually occur on vendor partners more so than actually on the customer side. So just because you're doing all of your due diligence on your network doesn't necessarily mean you're safe. If you're not applying that same due diligence to not just vetting, but to some extent auditing your vendors, then you're leaving yourself wide open. Now, you don't have to be full NIST 800-153 compliant. I don't think you're going to ask every single software vendor to supply you a list of every personnel change they have, for instance, but you can still hold them accountable. As the old saying goes, complacency is the enemy of progress. If you're not seeing constant progress and constant positive iteration from your vendor partners, whether that be a cybersecurity vendor, your student information system vendor, your ERP vendor, if you're not seeing positive movement, then you probably need to reevaluate that relationship.
All right. And here's the thing I want to also throw out to everybody. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of these things we talk about with cybersecurity, they do require resources. In some cases, financial resources. It could be from manpower, or it could be from a hardware, software end. And so you may be wondering, okay, how can you fund some of this stuff? Well, I do want to share some resources from AWS. They have their K-12 Cyber Grant Program. And I'm adding the link at the very bottom. Is you can go to aws.amazon.com education/K12-cyber-grant. Yes, there it is at the bottom. This is a grant. They have over 20 million available for school districts. It's an application process. It is free to apply for the grant. Is right there. The URL is at the bottom. Definitely check out AWS's resources. There is specifically for K-12 districts, and they have some amazing resources and content that is free for anyone to utilize. My favorite price, free $99. Yes, you heard it, free $99. And at the end of the day, I think everybody uses AWS at some point, whether it's the government. I think Apple at some point was using AWS server. So AWS is everywhere. So definitely check out their amazing resources. They're doing a great job in K-12. So check out what they have. Once again, it is their AWS K-12 Cyber Grant Program for education. You see the nice little button, apply now. Click on that little button right there, and it'll take you through their whole process to complete their cyber grant. So definitely check out that resource, available to all districts that are out there. Now, before we wrap, I am going to ask each one of our panelists to give their parting shot. So this is that walk-off shot. You're going to walk off, that you hit that 3-pointer. You're going to hold that hand in the air. You just hit that 3 as you're walking away from the webinar today. So what is the last bit of nugget that you want to leave all of our listeners with? Let's see, Nathan.
I will start off with a thought that whatever state you're in Georgia, we have about 1.8 million students. Those 1.8 million students are in need of an advocate and don't even know they need one. And that is what we're here for, not just from a cybersecurity standpoint, but also in the data privacy supports that we provide to our districts. So as you think about the impact that you have in your day-to-day job, just remember that this isn't just about securing my network. This isn't about securing my resources. The work that I do day to day is an advocacy role on behalf of my students. So that is my final thought.
All right, Bonnie, what you got for us? Oh, you're muted. Hey, Bonnie, I believe you're muted.
It's muted.
This is my hobby. It's talking on mute. I should have practiced this. No, I think, just to reiterate a lot of what people said here, though, and summarize that we have to compare it to the same as we do physical security. It is an everybody's problem. It is not just for IT. And just one vulnerability is all threat actors.
All right. So Terry, take us home.
Okay, yeah, I'm a poet, so I'm gonna get a little deep on y'all now, but serious.
Oh, okay.
So be the architects to secure tomorrow and let the walls of masterpieces of cyber resilience be impenetrable. That means empower your students to be the guardians of digital realm and in the worlds of bits and bytes, knowledge in the shield, wisdom of the armor, and cybersecurity is a sword, but you can't do it without each other. I never seen the team win a championship by itself. So understand that you guys are in this together. No one person is alone. Cybersecurity is a group effort.
Give you a couple snaps on that one right there. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for attending today's webinar on forging unbreakable cybersecurity partnerships, brought to you by Future Ready Schools and AWS. Once again, shout out to the amazing panelists that we had today. This is recorded, so you can watch it again and again. It's better each and every time you watch it. Make sure you check out all the great stuff they're doing in Georgia and Louisiana, and check out Terry. She has some amazing stuff. And when it's posted on YouTube, we'll have everybody's links and descriptions and all that fun stuff. So check us out. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.